Greetings, everyone. I'm Dr. Dave Webb, and welcome to the Homerun Leadership webinar. We have a special guest host with us today. I call it a guest coach, as we are doing some home run coaching throughout our program today. And Pastor Jen Hackbarth, do you want to say hey?
Hi.
Welcome to our show today. Our whole goal for Home Run Leadership, for writing the book and for doing the webinar, is to help you have less team stress. We know the job of being a leader is more challenging than ever. Trying to hear diverse perspectives, trying to include voices into those decisions, those great team decisions that you make every day. Today, Pastor Jen will be sharing a lot of her home run stories, her success stories that I've heard over the past couple of years. Pastor Jen and I had an executive coaching partnership, and we were able to grow together. She grew in hearing the science coaching from me of home run leadership, and I grew in the experience of coaching. What happened in that partnership was that my growth ended up helping me write chapters into the book that I just got up and out on Amazon, and it hit #1 in 3 categories over the last month. So Yahoo, Mountain Dew. And Pastor Jen kept sharing week after week her home run success in her leadership. So welcome again, Pastor Jen.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
I'm wondering if you'd like to begin by just sharing a little bit about your background and experience.
Yeah, I've been an ordained pastor in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America for 18 years now, and much of my career has been in what's called solo ministry, which means I was typically the only pastor on staff, but I would have other staff working with me to run the congregations, and then of course working with a lot of volunteers. Currently, I'm working as an interim pastor in this area, so helping congregations through times of transition. But all of this experience in congregations means that I have been in my fair share of meetings and also have worked with a lot of different groups in decision-making processes. So all of this was very applicable and very helpful for me as we work together. So that's a little bit about me.
That's great. So team meetings, you highlighted team meetings, and that's really what this whole book is about, home run leadership. And we actually even had a discussion, should we call it home run leadership or home run leadership system for the book title? Because not only is the meeting important that you are leading with your team, but the whole school system, the whole church system, your whole business organization, and people using it at every level of the organization in a system is really important. But it always starts with the leader. So we wanted to have a leadership webinar to really help leaders learn and grow the leadership tools and the leadership science. So Jen, we got into the coaching partnership. You just hit home run after home run. I'm wondering if we could jump right in today, and we'll coach the science through your stories. But I'm wondering if you would begin with maybe one of the key takeaways in a story, maybe the story about a complaint phone call. You started to get coaching on that there is a science of four steps that all the leadership science follows. I call it IROD. It's the IROD. And I put IROD on top of a baseball diamond to coach my teams, my school board, my family on how to run the bases, to touch the 4 bases better and faster. And we want to make sure that we were coaching you on that science to be more successful in your leadership. And do you want to share a story, and then we'll coach the science along with the story?
Yeah, well, this particular story is about one of my key takeaways from our conversations, and that was base 2, which we will talk about more, I'm sure. But base 2 is essentially reaching out and getting feedback from people and making sure that you know how people are feeling about things, whether.
As you go in, let me interrupt for just a
Yeah,
second. Let
go
me give
ahead.
them the 4 bases so
Yep.
they know exactly when you talk base 2 or 3. So I call it IROD, and I is first base, R is second, O is third, D is fourth. Information is first base. And you have to get all the information to touch first base. Second base is getting reactions, but you need to get all the reactions to touch second base.
Mhm.
Third base is all about options, and you need to get all the options. And I always think third base is the hardest base to complete because not only do you have to get all the options, you have to vet those options, and we'll talk more about that later.
Mhm.
And then D and IROD is about decisions. In order to make a team decision, and that's what Homerun leadership is about, not you crossing home plate alone. It's about a team agreement, team decision. And so here's Jen's story with a complaint phone call, just running the bases. So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I got this call. It was unexpected. So I was kind of taken off guard when she called, but luckily I had been talking with you. So I had a little bit of a plan as far as how I was going to handle it. But the first thing that this caller said to me was, nobody cares what I have to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. And so what I said was, let me get my notebook and write down what you're telling me so that I don't miss anything and so that I can take all of this information down. And then throughout our conversation, she just kept sharing with me, and I kept asking, is there anything else? Is there anything else you can share with me? Anything else you want to talk about? Even though my instinct as a human being was to end the phone call as quickly as possible. But
Right.
actually taking the time to listen to her was very helpful. And by the time the phone call ended, I hope that she felt heard. It felt like it ended on a good note. And I hope that it added some good camaraderie between the two of us. So that was my story about my complaint call.
And so there's like 4 great leadership lessons just packed into that story. So the very first golden thing that you did was you got out a notebook. So a lot of times leaders, um, especially when the stories get hot, we're just listening, we're not taking notes. When things get really hot, you mentioned the tendency is to jump to fourth base and just get her off the phone right away.
Yep.
But if you can take notes and slow down, and you then asked, another tip was anything else. So it's counterintuitive. Home run leadership is counterintuitive because you asked for more complaints, more information from her to make sure you got all of first base, all the information. So first base is about data, details, facts, information. You want to get all of it to make sure you're fully vetting and getting first base. So, way to go.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when they tell a story is it gets mixed with second base too. So, you heard the complaint in with the story. And so, in those complaint phone calls, you're going to get a mix of first and second base. And so, you just have to keep listening. Anything else? Anything else you'd like to share? Sometimes on those really hot complaint phone calls, you have to ask anything else about 6 or 7 times
Yes.
because the story is so thick and so rich. So you ran the bases really well. You wrote it down. So if she needed to follow up or you needed to follow up with her even a week later or a month later, you had all the notes there, but you heard her out completely. And who knows if that's the first time that someone actually listened to her complaint fully, but you did. You gave her that gift of really hearing her out first and second base and checking to see if she needed anything else was like, how best can I support you is a great third base question to say, what else do you need as an option moving forward? And a lot of times people just need to register their complaint with the pastor or the principal or the manager.
Mhm.
And you did just that. So way to go. So many home run lessons all packed into just one simple complaint call. Nice
Yeah.
job. Any other reflections from you on that call, Pastor Jen?
I think an important part of the call, the actually telling her that I'm getting my notebook and writing down what she was saying, to me, it helped calm me down because it gave me a job, and
Mhm.
it separated me a little bit from the conversation, so that my job was not to react emotionally to what she was saying, but rather to take the information down. And so it really helped to put me in a spot where I was open to listening. And I think she felt really good knowing that I was writing down what she was saying and not just in one ear and out the other, that it was important to me.
How great is that? So we're going to shift into your second story with us today. And, as lead pastor, you have to lead these huge meetings for planning huge events at your congregation with your church.
Mhm.
And could you share that story? And then we'll unpack it with a lot of IROD coaching.
Yeah, this is a story about planning for the 2021 Easter worship season. So it was planning for Holy Week, which in our congregations is the biggest week of the year
Mhm.
and takes the most planning, the most details. And in 2021, it was a really tricky year because of in person versus virtual worship. It just doubled the amount of decisions that we had to make together as a worship committee. So that was one of my, when Dave and I would talk, he would often ask me, what's your dread ahead this week? What are you worried about? What are you concerned about? And so we talked through my plan for this particular meeting with the worship committee to plan this Holy Week and Easter season. So what I did was I, ahead of time, wrote out all of my worship drafts, my ideas for the worship services. I gave them as much information as I possibly could before the meeting. And I was worried that this would overwhelm them, that it would bog the meeting down, but it did the opposite. They were very appreciative of getting all that information. And then during the meeting, I made sure to make time for feedback and opinions and what did they think of these worship plans and ideas, and did they have any additional ideas that would be helpful that they could share. And the conversation, I was afraid, would get bogged down, like I said, in those details, but we didn't. We moved really fast because the information was there, they had seen it, they could react quickly, we made decisions fast. And then each time we went through because we had to go through the home run process for every single, I mean, not even every single worship service, but every detail for every worship service we had to decide on. And that just kept building all this goodwill because we'd make a home run and then we'd do it again and we'd do it again. And it just felt really great. And at the end, someone said to me, and I'd been serving in this congregation, I think at the time for 11, 12 years. And at the end of the meeting, she said, that, Pastor Jen, was a great meeting. I
Right?
mean, nobody ever says that. So it was just such a wonderful way to take something that was really stressful for me as a leader and to have a plan and have it work out well.
Great as that. So, as a leader, that's about all I need when somebody leaves the meeting and says, that was a great meeting.
Mhm.
So, that's just a wonderful way to just say, hey, that is awesome. And when you get that, it's just that food that nourishes you as a leader.
Yes.
So, how many home runs in one meeting, laying out step by step every piece of that agenda? How many home runs do you think you hit in just that one meeting?
I have no idea. I mean, I don't even 20. I mean, when you think
Right?
if every decision, like, you know, who should volunteer for which spot and how should we do communion, and what kind of music are we going to use? I mean, it was just one on top of the other. So probably at least 20, probably more.
Right. So because you knew the 4 science-based steps, because you knew IROD, because you knew the questions going into the meeting, and then that you needed to hit a home run on every single point of that agenda, really of the church Easter program.
Yep.
You got this, I call it a grand slam because you had so many home runs packed in there. So you got 20 home runs and people left saying that was a great meeting. So is there any other strategy going into that meeting that you'd recommend for people going into, and it doesn't have to be at a church, it can be a school where you're getting ready, it's August, you're ready to open the school year. What recommendations do you have for other leaders going into a meeting like that, where you need to leave up with a plan, but it's a complex plan where you have 10 to 20 decisions?
The biggest breakthrough for me as a leader was giving them all of the information ahead of time, and having my own plan worked out as far as ideas for each step of the way, but also being open to, I'm giving this to you so that you can prepare to give reactions and feedback. And it feels counterintuitive to me because giving so much information feels like it will bog the meeting down, but it does just the opposite. And that to me was a real breakthrough learning point.
Yeah, so I'm going to piggyback off of that. So of the 20 points that you had for the Easter service, you had 20 recommendations that you had coming in there, but it was treated for them as information, first base. So it's when I'm with my school board and I make a recommendation, it's information, it's first base for my school board members to hear the recommendation, get their feedback on it, look at options, and then the school board gets to decide. For your team, you made recommendations for every point of the service, but you didn't cross home plate. You just said, here's where I am. Here's my current best thinking. Can I get your reactions? Can we have reactions from the team? And if there are other better options for an opening song, can I get that from the worship team right now and get that feedback? And then can we agree with the will of this team to make an agreement, a plan, a decision together? Okay, and that's just the opening song. So that's the first of 20 more home runs to go. But you're organizationally so strong that you laid it out ahead of time. You took it one at a time, didn't rush through the home run. You just waited to get the home run. And then you packaged all those home runs together. I just think it's an awesome story and shows how many times you have to run the bases, but how being patient and just managing the process, how critical that is to great leadership. So way to go.
Yeah, it was a great meeting.
Here was. All right. I have one more story that I'm asking you to share that I just think is a pretty cool story, that you took the 4 bases, leadership questions that we were training for you and your leadership at work, and you transitioned it into your home team. And it's a great story about you just running the bases at home and using it with your family team as well. So it's a great way to show the versatility of IROD. So go ahead.
Yes, this was, I think I had IROD on the brain, and I was at home just doing my regular meal planning for the next few days for my family. We were getting ready to put in our grocery order, and I thought, okay, how am I getting all the information I need for this meal plan? And I thought, no, because I need to ask my kids what they want to eat this
This
week.
is your weekly plan for the
Yep.
weekly meal calendar?
Yep.
Got it.
And my habit hadn't been to ask the kids if they had a certain meal they wanted. And so I
what was
decided,
your habit? Jen, tell them. become clean about what you were doing?
Oh, my habit was just to take it on and get it done as fast as I could, and just
Right.
make the meal plan and move on with my life. And it worked fine. But I thought, this time that I was planning, I thought, well, maybe I'll practice getting more information in this process. And so I asked my kids, what would the two of you like to eat this week? And asked my husband, is there something you want to eat this week? And I knew my daughter was going to ask for pad thai, which is her favorite meal, which I do not like to cook. And so if I hadn't asked her, I wouldn't have had to worry about it. But the IROD told me to get the feedback, or the IROD process. And so I asked her that, and she, of course, said pad thai. And I said back to her, I really don't like making that. And my husband happened to be in the room at the time, and he said, well, I'll make pad thai. And he said, and my daughter, he's like, I'll just take her to the grocery store. We'll get the ingredients for pad thai and we'll just make it together tonight. And I was surprised by that, because it was a win-win-win for everybody. Right. And that I didn't have to I didn't have to worry about the planning for that particular meal. Right. I didn't have to cook it. And right. My husband and my daughter got to have some time together, shopping and planning and cooking together. And then my daughter got to eat her favorite meal. Right. So a simple little thing, but a great home run. And now whenever that meal comes up in the meal plan, I just give it to them.
That is a wonderful story. And I'm going to add a couple more home runs on there. Now your daughter has built the independence to keep cooking, to have confidence cooking at home, to keep making pad thai. Dad's taking her to the grocery store so she can keep shopping for pad thai. Mm-hmm. She can keep expanding out and maybe cook other meals. And how great is that as a life skill that you're really helping to share the leadership in the kitchen too. Mm-hmm. So what I see in my leadership is the more that I can share leadership, especially like a school district. I was superintendent for a school district of 3,000 plus students. You can't do it all as the superintendent. You're counting on a great finance director and curriculum director and facilities managers and principals that are all running the base as well. So that home run leadership system, you're building the system so your family system kept running bases stronger and stronger. And you're teaching your work team to become a home run leadership system, running the bases better and better. Mm-hmm. So I can't compliment you enough. I think you're just a great home run hitter.
Well, it turned a responsibility of mine into a team decision as our family, and it benefited everybody. So yeah, it was a great moment, and we're still reaping the benefits.
That's awesome. And how great that your husband said, I'll take her shopping. We'll go to the store together. We'll shop together and we'll cook together. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of wives out there that would love their husband to be stepping up like that. So way to go.
Yeah. And I didn't even consider that he'd want to do that until I put the word out there. So yeah, the process the team decision making is very helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just as a present for being a guest on our show today, Pastor Jen, we have built a home run leadership video course. So I filmed 21 videos that parallel the 21 chapters of our book. We'd like to give you a free video course for being on our show today. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for being an awesome home run hitter. Your stories will inspire many other leaders and that's our goal, to make sure that people are aligning to the simple science of 4 that can really follow IROD each step of the way, to not only use the baseball diamond framework, but to ask really good IROD questions. So as we close today, it's really about getting all the information all the reactions, all the options, vetting those options with pros and cons to make sure that you have the best decision. And you can test that decision, checking to make sure that you have the will of the group, the majority of your family, and the decisions that you make to strengthen those. And you saw that with pad thai, and what a great strengthening question that you asked, to have your family step up and jump in to make a shared family decision. So way to go.
Yeah, that rod
Go ahead.
process works at home and in a professional capacity. I mean, it crosses many boundaries and is helpful in many areas of life.
And again, as we close today, our website is homerunleadership.com. If you're interested in our online course, it's there. If you'd like to order books, invite us to speak. We want to continue to have these Wednesday webinars with Dr. Webb. We're trying to make it simple, www.Wednesday webinars with Dr. Dave Webb. And we'll continue in the foreseeable future with just bringing on other home run hitters like Pastor Jen. And again, thank you, Jen, for joining us today. Thanks for all of you that are online for tuning in today. And we want to make sure that you continue to run the bases to go great places. Thanks, everyone.